Now, most people think that Venus, the planet of love and beauty, has one purpose and one purpose only, which is to tell you how you behave in a romantic relationship. Now, by now, most of you already know that an astrological chart is complex and it's got multiple planets. Okay, so for those of you who are not familiar with this and you think astrology is just based on like that one sign, you might want to go and generate your astrological chart. You'll see a link in the description below, just so you know that when I talk about a chart, you have an idea of what it is. Now, the thing is, if you think that Venus only describes your behavior in romantic relationships, this explains why online there is a huge obsession over what sign is your Venus. And for a lot of people, it's like, say you have a crush on someone, and then if you have their birth date or their birth time, and then you go and generate that person's birth chart, it's like, oh, you know, this person has Venus in Scorpio. Like, oh my God, right? But you find that very often, we need to go a little bit beyond just the sign. Now, what I'm going to explain to you here is that an astrological chart has got 12 houses. So if you look at this diagram over here, you'll see that the whole circle chart is divided into 12, sectors that tells us in what area of life your Venus gets played out. Now today, in order to demonstrate how Venus is vastly different when it shows up in each of the different houses, I'm going to give you examples that all belong in one category, which is Venus in Pisces. So Pisces, some of you know, is the sign of the fish. So therefore, if you have Venus in Pisces, this is famously known as the romantic, that they like romantic novels, they're into like beautiful love stories, and they're all these gentle creatures, okay? So let me show you how, when it shows up in different areas of the chart, you might just get a very different picture. So let's begin with my very first example, who has Venus in the first house, number 1 house. Now, anything that's in the first house refers to the physical appearance. Now, my first example is Queen Elizabeth. Yes, the fluffy grandmother here. Okay, so when you have Venus in the first house, this is someone who looks very feminine. And in fact, when Venus is in Pisces, have a look at how Queen Elizabeth is always in a pastel color. She always has this nice, peaceful smile on her face. Definitely looks like somebody you want to sort of like, help her across the road in that sense. Very well-mannered and always, very pleasant with everybody that she's with. Now, I'd like you to draw a massive comparison with a very different character. The next on my list here is Hugh Hefner. Now, most of you know him as the founder of Playboy. Okay, so today he's a very, very old man, but you'll see that now the reason why he's so different from Queen Elizabeth is because he also has Venus in Pisces, but in this case it shows up in the 6th house, number 6. Now, the 6th house, of among other things, also governs your work environment. And while most people tend to work in like boring offices and a little cubicle, consider that as the founder of Playboy, this is what his workplace looks like. So this is the famous Playboy mansion. He is walking around surrounded by these blonde beauties with big breasts and very, very famous figures. And while this is, and in his case, Venus in Pisces represents having a work environment full of women who are essentially one big fantasy. Okay, so that's Venus in Pisces in the 6th house. And some of you may say, okay, but Venus, that kind of still describes his taste in women. Absolutely. So what happens when Venus in Pisces shows up in the 7th house? And the 7th house is the classic partner house. So my third example here is Miss Victoria Beckham, most famously known as the wife of footballer David Beckham. So in this case, now it's not that Victoria Beckham is not a beautiful woman. Most people agree, well, she's pretty good looking in her own way. But we all also agree that what is even more beautiful is her husband. So in fact, David Beckham has been very associated, well, beyond just football, he's been associated with modeling. He's been associated with a lot of like famous relationships with lots of famous people, not just the romantic and the sexual kind. So in fact, in her case, because Venus shows up in the 7th house, it tends to describe the partner more than it describes Victoria Beckham herself. And sometimes you find that Venus shows up in houses that are not generally relationship related. Okay, so The fourth example on my list has got Venus in the 10th house. The 10th house is the career house. So what happens when you have the planet of love, beauty, art in the 10th house? What you get is an artist. So the fourth example here is Mr. Vincent Van Gogh. Now today, Vincent Van Gogh's paintings, among the most famous, include the sunflowers, they include the Starry Night, and these are paintings that sell for millions and millions of dollars. So in his case, it is that the planet of beauty and love shows up in career, where he creates not just art, but also art that is associated with dreams, with fantasies, and with a very romanticized view of the world. So you realize that Venus in Pisces does not always just describe your relationships. But having said that, some people who may have done their research may say, hey, but then Vincent Van Gogh also has a very romantic Piscean view towards relationships. And sometimes Pisces is also associated with helping those who are disadvantaged. Now let me give you an idea of the kind of girlfriends that Vincent Van Gogh has had. Among the women he's been with have included drug addicts, drunks. There are also a couple of prostitutes and also ladies who have unfortunately drowned themselves. Now this is not a fantastic example, but what I'm trying to illustrate here is that Venus in Pisces may also show itself in other ways besides just being romantic and being compassionate. So it goes a little bit beyond that. Now sometimes people also say, but then Venus is love. You can't deny that. And then what I would question them would be, does love only occur in a one-on-one setting? Is it possible for love to be so great that it goes out to multiple people? So the last example on my list has got Venus in the 11th house. Some of you may be aware that the 11th house is for friends, it's for communities, it's for large groups of people. And the last example on my list is Mr. Martin Luther King. Now he is most famous for his I Have a Dream speech. And this is someone who fought really, really hard out of love for the masses, for the people. So this is where you have Venus in Pisces, selfless giving in favor of a community of people. So Venus in Pisces, not always in a one-on-one romantic relationship. So I hope this video was very useful, and I know quite a few of you are trying to learn astrology. And what I'm going to suggest here is that if you are looking at planets, so I would like to challenge you, go beyond just looking at the sign of the planet. Because for many people, you think that Venus has a potential of 12 signs, and therefore there are 12 types of Venuses. But what I've just demonstrated today is that you can have Venus in Pisces, and it can show up in anywhere out of the 12 houses, which gives you a lot more combinations. So 12 signs in 12 houses, just Venus alone could give you a potential of 144 combinations just looking at signs and houses. Some of you may be thinking that, hey, why did you only do Pisces? Why didn't you do my sign? My sign could be in something else. Now, if you would like me to do a video in your sign, what you want to do is put something in the comments, tell me what sign your Venus is in, and yeah, let me know your thoughts. And if we've got enough people asking for a particular sign, my next video could be in your Venus sign. So guys, I'll see you in my next video.